And it looked like we were going to get the letdown that I had feared, that after the 4 awesome games, divisional round, we were going to get the Bengals stepping into a buzzsaw. It was playing out the way I thought it would. We're going to talk about that AFC Championship game right out of the gates and kind of try to figure out what happened. Because, Mike, for it to go from 21-3, the Chiefs firing on all cylinders, Patrick Mahomes 18 for 21 with 3 touchdowns in the first half. He fell off a cliff like I've never seen an elite player fall off a cliff halfway through a game ever before that I can remember. Maybe it's happened before, years ago. I can't remember it. It was stunning, and it's still hard to process. For a while, I thought that maybe he got injured or something, and we didn't recognize it. I went back and watched the first half last night. Nothing that stood out. It was just the adjustments the Bengals made at halftime that completely flummoxed the Chiefs' offense in the second half.
So, that's obviously what we're going to get into. There were adjustments made, and I'm always interested in the third quarter, how does a team come out from adjustments that were made at halftime? And then do you adjust to the adjustments? And we'll get into that. But as a former player, you take little moments, right? So you're getting beat pretty good, but then all of a sudden, Kansas City doesn't score at the end of the half. So while you're still getting basically bludgeoned, right? You go in at halftime and you're like, okay, they screwed that one up. No way Pat should have thrown that ball, not in the end zone. We make a nice tackle. They don't get any points at all out of that. So, okay, maybe there's just a little bit honest now, just a little bit going forward. And that's what you hold on to. Because when you're going into halftime getting beat that bad, you got to have something to look forward to. Obviously, the adjustments you're going to make for sure, but you also have to have something that happened on the field. And this was it. They are at least going to get 3 out of this. Everybody's thinking that, or they're going to get 7, and they get a goose egg. They get nothing. And I know Andy Reid said it was on him. He gave a bad play call there, but that's on Mahomes. That is absolutely on Pat Mahomes. The first look is in the end zone. The second look is to throw it away. And he didn't. He even admitted he got greedy, and they came away with nothing.
And I think the psychology of that moment, leaving the door open for the Bengals, they went into the locker room down 11, just like they did in Week 17, down 11, and ultimately won by 3, just like they did in Week 17. But I think that there's a different mindset to those single elimination games, especially as you get closer and closer to the championship. And to have something go haywire, to have your momentum get disrupted in a dramatic way, to have a self-inflicted wound. It's one thing to try to come back from it during a regular season game. When everything's riding on it and you do give that extra opportunity, that second life, when the other team does the Undertaker sitting upright gif, that's a recipe for disaster. And not even a great team like the Chiefs was able to turn it back on again. If any team, I thought, was able to have the gas pedal mashed to the ground, Mike, and then slip off and then find it again, it's the Chiefs, because they've shown us they can flip the switch at will. And I thought they would late in the game, and they just seemed tentative late in the game. They seemed concerned. They seemed almost resigned to what was going to happen. We're not used to the Chiefs behaving that way.
Yeah, well, no, we're not. But that's where you give credit to the Cincinnati Bengals in making the adjustments that they made when you're dropping 8, a little more. And Pat Mahomes is having trouble with that when they're not running maybe more when they should to help out the offense as well. That's something that we've talked about with the Chiefs over the years. But they've been so successful, Mike, doing what they've done. So we remember early in the year, everybody's playing that deep cover 2 on them, daring Pat Mahomes to go underneath, and he still wanted to go over the top. I talked to Andy Reid about halfway through the season about that, and he said, yeah, we're used to having success there. Pat's going to have to learn. We got to learn to check it down a little bit, because that's only going to help you. You check it down, the defense has to come down a little bit, and then you can take your shots. So he started to do that a little more, and then all of a sudden, toward the end of the season, this offense started looking like the offense of old, where they could basically do what they want to do. Well, Cincinnati made some adjustments. They weren't able to do what they wanted to do, and they didn't make enough adjustments out of that. So kudos to Cincinnati. You can make all the adjustments you want, Mike, but then you have to execute them. You have to say, okay, we think this is going to work out, but you still have to beat the guy in front of you, or when you're dropping 8, make sure you don't, your eyes aren't drifting where they shouldn't, or you're not moving out of your zone like you shouldn't. And so that has to be executed correctly. And it was, and the Chiefs really didn't have an answer for that.
Let's go back to late in the first half. And the way it was going, 21-3, it felt like it was just a question of whether it would be the Super Bowl we got in 2019 or the Super Bowl we kind of hoped we were going to get in 2018 after they had that epic Monday night game that was supposed to be in Mexico City, 54-51. We thought we were going to get that. We thought we were going to get it now. We thought it was going to be Chiefs-Rams or Chiefs-49ers. And then the Bengals score on the long catch and run by Samaje Perine, make it 21-10. A minute 5 left in the half, and the Chiefs get it in position. And we talked about it a little while ago, that fateful decision with 5 seconds left to give it one more try in lieu of taking the field goal and making it 24-10. Let's hear from Andy Reid, coach of the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes, the starting quarterback, regarding that last play at the end of the half.
Yeah, so I was hoping we could get the ball in the end zone. I probably gave him the wrong play, first of all. So to start with, I could have given him something better than that, where the play was open in the end zone, and then we wouldn't have to go through that. But it's I'll take responsibility for that one out.
Yeah, we had just ran a play. It took 4 seconds to play before where I burned it. So I knew that the time was low, obviously. I knew we needed to get points. We called a play that we were trying to get someone over the middle quick. And then I was supposed to throw the ball away. I got a little greedy there and try to give to Tyreek and get a touchdown. They had 2 people out there. So definitely, I mean, in the long run of things, it looks bad, but if we had another chance, I would have went for another play again.
Hey, well, yeah, I guess because you'd have a better chance of getting it the next time, right? Flip a coin one time you get it, one time you don't. But I knew the minute he threw it, it's like, hey, Tyreek Hill's great, but he's not so fast that he can run through a wall or jump over a wall. There was no pathway through the Bengals that were there to keep him from getting into the end zone. Eli Apple makes the tackle, and that was just that. Wait a minute. Something's not right here. And so the Chiefs carry that doubt into the locker room, and the Bengals carry that, hey, they let us hang around, we're going to go take it from them.
Yeah, now, again, to carry the doubt in the locker room, I don't know if that play affected their play in the second half, but because it's one of those things you better forget about quickly. And again, Andy trying to take the responsibility there. You heard Pat Mahomes just say, we just ran a play before that, and you saw how quickly the play was run, and it burned 4 seconds. So he knew exactly the clock in his head. He said it. And that's why I said it before. He said it. He got greedy. Instead of just making sure you got the 3, he threw it to his guy who thought he could make a play. And Eli Apple was there, and if you're trying to cut back, Trey Hendrickson was right there as well. So he wasn't getting in, but he got greedy. He couldn't just take the 3. He wanted to try and make the play. So to me, that's all on Mahomes. Now, again, I don't know if it carries into the second half. You got a new ball game. You got another play. You got a lot of plays you got to go. I just think Cincinnati made great adjustments, and they really took the life out of that Kansas City offense.
Yeah, and let's focus on the adjustments because, look, Mike, this is the second time in less than a month that the Bengals defense held the Chiefs to 3 points in the second half of a game. 3 points. That's 6 total points in 60 minutes of football. It would have sounded better if it was 120. My math sucks. It always does. 60 minutes of football. 6 total points with one of the best offenses we've seen in years, trying to score far more than that. And I was poking around last night with some people who were at the game, trying to figure out whether there was any talk, any chatter, any discussion of Patrick Mahomes maybe being dinged and we didn't know about it, or injured and we didn't know about it. And the halftime adjustments, as I understand it, were planned. That this was part of the Rocky switching back to southpaw at the right moment, that they had planned to change everything up in the second half. Now, they maybe should have implemented it earlier than they did once they were down 21-3. But if this was we're deliberately going to flip it around and change it around and adjust everything and confuse them in the second half, kudos to them because it worked. And that's one of the reasons why, that first drive, they just sputtered, and it just kept sputtering, and they could not get it going. And I think when they go back and look at the film, they'll realize that they were led to believe the Bengals were playing them one way. The Bengals changed, and they didn't have enough time, or they didn't have the ability to make the adjustment during the 30 minutes plus the drive of overtime that they had.
Yeah, listen, and while most adjustments are made at halftime, listen, every time one side of the ball goes to the sideline, they talk about things. They're constantly talking and get things done right away just in case it's a turnover and they have to get back on the field. So it's talked about. So they saw what they were doing. I mean, and they just didn't adjust well to it. I mean, to think of dropping 8, right? So you're putting 8 in coverage, you're rushing 3. So they did that about 35% of the times on dropbacks for Mahomes, right? And when they did that, I mean, it was horrible what he did. His stats, dropping 8 back, he was 7 of 13 for 59 yards, an interception, and he got sacked twice on a 3-man rush. So Cincinnati completely took it to him on 35% of his dropbacks, 13 passes, and they didn't have an answer for it. One of the ways is maybe you try and run the ball a little more because there's a lot of guys back. So if there's guys back, you got to bring them up somehow, some way. So do you run the ball a little more? And there's been the thought that there's enough running in this offense when need be. But, I mean, this is so much kudos to Cincinnati for the adjustment and then executing the adjustment. And on the other side, you just have to say, listen, they adjusted. What did you do to adjust to that? It really is a chess match out there of when the offense comes off and says, man, you see what's going on upstairs. They send down we got these tablets. We get to see everything. You see 8 are back there rushing 3. This isn't reinventing the wheel. There's got to be somewhat of an answer that you have to try for that. And I'm sure they did. I'm sure Andy and Eric Bieniemy just sit there going, oh, my God, we've never seen this before. What the hell do we do? They've seen it. So I'm sure they try to make adjustments to it. That's why I say the credit goes to Cincinnati. Not only did you adjust, but, man, you executed incredibly well.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.